Good morning, Central Kentucky. This is Sandra Leslie White coming to you live from WJMM Studios here just outside of Lexington, Kentucky, and shouting out to all of you on WJMM.com, live streaming around the country. It's exciting. I have listeners heard from this week from Pennsylvania, from Denver. Oh, that's exciting. So, that's wonderful to hear from you guys. I appreciate you so much. And so, yeah, today, we're just going to talk about, talk. We're going to talk about talk. Some of the expressions that we hear about talk, talk is cheap, isn't it? I mean, so often what we say, if it's not what we do, is just considered cheap. So, talk is cheap these days. I think, we talked yesterday about walking the walk, talking the talk. If we don't talk the talk and our walk line up to the talk, it's no good. But what about this idea that our talk is cheap? Is it? Is our talk cheap? I want to talk about that as we go into a little bit deeper what it means to be loyal to the Lord, and really look at the whole idea of following Jesus and walking the walk, yes, and talking the talk. So let's look at Hosea 6:6 just as our foundational verse as we wrap up this week, tomorrow on Hosea 6:6 and move forward. But to delight in loyalty is what he says about himself in Hosea 6:6. Let's listen to that in the New American Standard Version this morning. For I delight in loyalty rather than sacrifice, and in the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. All right, so today's message is titled Talk the Talk. Those of you who were rejoicing yesterday, I was nailing all of us who talk the talk but don't walk the walk, because the title of the message was Walk the Walk. And certainly we need to do that. If we can't walk the walk, please don't talk the talk. That was a good comment I got yesterday from one of our listeners. So I think that's so important. But what does it mean to talk the talk? Is that something that is important to the Lord? Is it important to Yahweh? What is talking the talk all about? Well, I think that if we look carefully at the life of Jesus and we realize that his walk, of course, was perfect, and that he had tremendous compassion on all of those who heard his voice, followed him, who had a need for a Savior. He came for the sick. He didn't come for the healthy. He made it really clear to the religious rulers of the day, anyway, that he was not about following rules. He was about following him, following in a relationship with God, with Yahweh, the Old Testament God. We went through this. He's done everything he can at this point in Hosea. The high point of Hosea 6:6 anyway, in terms of theology, is I don't want you to be religious. I want you to be relational. So being relational, and here comes that, balance that we've got to walk this tightrope, don't we? Especially in the culture today, that what we do is so important, that we're exhibiting the life that Jesus has given us within, that we really are, our actions are lining up to the Word. It means Jesus, the Word. Our actions line up to the Word. And sometimes, you can take issue with actions, can't you? I mean, we've got to be filled with grace and love, but also truth. So if we are off balance in either of those areas, full of grace and compassion and love, but speaking that in truth is our goal in talking the talk and walking the walk. So there are many great charities, are there not, across the planet that do so many good works. But if they are void of the message of Jesus Christ, are they still considered ministries? We've got some tension there. If we are walking the walk and being compassionate and caring for the poor or the needy or creation or anything that we're doing that is good works, but it is void of the talk, then I believe we are working in vain. I do. Because of the fact of being loyal to Jesus is the reason that there are martyred Christians all over the planet today, not because of just their actions, that they're being good and compassionate and caring and so on, is because of their words. They are confessing Jesus Christ as Lord. They are becoming believers against all odds, and there is persecution promised for those of us who follow Christ. It's promised. It's not just, this could happen to you. And it's because the world, he says in John 17, hated him, so they're going to hate you. I mean, he pretty much told us that even in the Beatitudes, that as we go on and we have mercy and we love those who are in our midst, as we're filled with the love of Christ, we can't help but love people. I really believe that. And I think that it's so important for us to realize that even in the Beatitudes, even in those beautiful teachings of Jesus, on the Sermon of the Mount, maybe I'll go there. I've been kind of flipping around, wonder, gosh, there's so many places to go with this. But let's go there. Let's go to the Sermon of the Mount. It is in Matthew 5. And so he says this. It's the teachings of Jesus. It's his words that are a problem. It's not who he is. It's not what he did. It's what he said that was a problem. So, again, if you're just tuning in, Sandra Leslie White talking the talk this morning. So, in the New American Standard Version in Matthew 5, says this, starting with verse 1. And when he saw the multitudes, he went up on the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. And opening his mouth, he began to teach them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men cast insults at you and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely on account of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. So they persecuted the prophets who were before you. All right, that is the Beatitudes. That's the first 12 verses of the Beatitudes. And so it is important that all these Beatitudes are so beautiful, except 11 and 12. Okay, can we just start at, really 9? The last one, blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be called sons of God. But, we can't stop at 9. We got to go on to 10. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness. And 11, blessed are you when you're persecuted. They say all kinds of evil against you falsely on account of who? Jesus. We're to rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So we've been in the prophets, we've been in Hosea for some time. And Hosea living, I would imagine, a really extraordinary life. I mean, I want to dig more deeply into the man, if it's all possible. The man who penned this, the man who was commanded to marry a temple prostitute, have children with her, because he was to be a living parable of what was going on in the land. Remember that from Hosea 1, that he was commanded early on. And we'll just go there. Early on, refreshing our memories here. Hosea 1 verse 2. When the Lord first spoke through Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, "Go, take yourself a wife of harlotry, and have children of harlotry, for the land commits flagrant harlotry, forsaking the Lord." So, that would have been a tumultuous time for Hosea. I mean, he is prophesying in the midst of seeing his people in the northern kingdom of Israel just doing abominable things, just going completely against what Yahweh was all about, what he was teaching, what he was saying, because he didn't want them to be doing the things of the pagan gods, because they were destructive to their own lives. So here we are again, going about walking the walk, talking the talk, and being loyal to Yahweh, being loyal to Jesus. As we have said this week, twice he repeats the Hosea 6:6 passage in Matthew when he's talking about to the Pharisees, to the religious, that you are to be loyal to him and not be religious and have rules laid out for all of your people that they cannot keep them. Okay, so Jesus came, yes, to destroy the works of the devil, 1 John 3:8, but he also came because God so loved the world. He didn't want anybody to perish, in that John 3:16, and so he sent Jesus, the exact manifestation of him in the flesh, the Word made flesh, because he knew, Yahweh knew, we couldn't keep all the rules. We just can't keep all the rules. And so Jesus comes not to abolish the law, the 10 Commandments, or however you see the law, but to fulfill them, because we can't. And so it is his word, his language, our language, that coupled with our good works, faith without works is dead. So we cannot have that without good works. That's important. So walking the walk is critical, but also talking the talk. Jeremiah even said, about the time I just don't want to say anything else about Yahweh. It's like a fire within me, burning in my bones. Indeed, I can't hold it in. I can't hold the words of God in. And Jesus even said that if you don't confess me among men, I will not confess you to our Father who is in heaven. So there is that wonderful balance between grace and truth again. We know that he was filled with both grace and truth. That's our goal, to be filled as he was with grace and truth. And as we are loyal to him, as we spend the most amount of time in our day with him, that he is the foremost in our thoughts, that his teachings are hidden deep within our hearts, that we desire, like David did, through the Psalms, we desire to meditate on his word day and night, and then to keep his precepts as we walk along the planet. So let's not forget that talking the talk is as important as walking the walk. And so for today, let's consider, how are we expressing the kingdom in our own vernacular? And are we following that up with really living it? Or are we allowing ourselves to be a diluted message of the gospel? So it's so important, especially today, that we are authentic, that we are truly loyal. So I look forward to continuing with Hosea 6:6 tomorrow. God bless you today.